Hello everyone. I'm going to share with you a little analysis about the ministries of the novel, and they are the Ministry of Truth, and that is in charge of sharing information. And it is supposed that they will share real things, but they falsify facts and all kind of information. The second one is the Ministry of Peace, and in the contrary of what the name tells us, it is in charge of everything related to war. And the next one is the Ministry of Love, and this is for reaffirm the feeling of devotion to the big brother, but by imposing fear with torture. And the last one is the Ministry of Plenty, which is in charge of controlling the economy, but instead of maintain a good control of it, they maintain a state of poverty. And despite of their name as positive values, their purpose is the opposite. They make people believe that they are living a life of prosperity and in peace, but the government tries to maintain their citizens under their power, keeping them blind of reality, just to keep them submissive to their rules. And these ministries are a tool to work on that. And that's what I have to say.
Hello, my name is Julissa, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the main characters of the book 1984. Let's start with the first one, that is Winston Smith. He is the protagonist of this story, and the whole story is narrated from his point of view, and that is why we as readers don't know so much details about the other characters, because the book only shows us what Winston knew about the other ones. Winston works at the Party of the Truth, rewriting events that happened in the past, but he hates the ministry and he hates the government. But he had to pretend that he loves the big brother just for fear. Then we have Julia. She's a beautiful, dark-haired girl who works in the fiction department at the Ministry of the Truth. Julia is sensual and pragmatic, and she thought that she had to live her life at the best way she can. So she inspired Winston to break the rules and had a romance between them. Then we have O'Brien. He is a member of the Ministry of the Truth too. Winston thought that he has a contradictory aspect because he looks big and rude, but he also has a face that inspires confidence. But the reality is that he is not a confident person, because he only get close to Winston with the purpose to expose and prove that he hates the whole government. And the last one is Mr. Carrington. He is an old man who is the owner of the store in which Winston bought the diary, and the person who rented the room in which Winston and Julia meet secretly. So the reality is that he is a member of the Thought Police, and he spies and tricks Winston always. And then when Winston realized that Mr. Carrington was part of the Thought Police, his physical appearance changed. I mean, he looks like a young man of 35 years. So that part really surprised me when I was reading, because that made me think about how good they were doing their job. So I think that the book is really interesting and the characters are really well created.
Hello everyone, my name is Aaron and this is my opinion about the novel 1984. George Orwell's 1984 is a dystopian novel whose plot takes place in Oceania, a country dominated by a totalitarian government that constantly monitors its citizens and even insists on spying on their thoughts to main order. Orwell brilliantly illustrates the ways in which an individual is affected by a repressive government or an autocratic figure, and how this affects all aspects of his life, from his thoughts, desires, personal and family relationship, who or cannot move your body and even your sexuality. And the consequence that these repressive forms have on citizens are devastating to the point that they destroy Fairfax, and the only thing that distinguishes the human being, memory and memorize, dreams and desires, personal tastes and opinions, and of course capacity to question, criticize, and think. This is my opinion about the novel 1984. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Rixi Cruz and I'm going to say that I'm agree with you, and this is a really important book because as we can see that George Orwell transmits some characteristics about their life, right? And this is the reason why I want to mention about the setting. Okay, the book setting was in 1984 and it was developed in Oceania, but Eurasia and East Asia were also involved, right? In which Oceania is governed by the all-controlling party, as we can read in the book, which has brainwashed the population into unthinking obedience to its leader, Big Brother. This is the reason why I think that the story creates a mood of frustration with the environment in which it takes place, because I think that the setting also affects how the characters develops their uh, characteristics, personal characteristics. Okay, I think that the setting does affect the lives of the characters because they are the conditions in which the novel develops. I also think that the setting does affect the acting and feeling of the characters. Therefore, it represents an idea of how the characters think. So I think that the setting is a really important part because it influences the actions that the characters do. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Larissa Lopez, and I would like to talk about the setting of the novel compared with the real situation or experiences of George Orwell. Okay, so the first question is: does the setting create a mood? Yes, of course, it creates a mood because in the novel, the setting show us a society under control or controlled by politics, corrupt government, and shows a society that do not fight for their freedom of choice, do not protest, and so on. So I think that the scene create that kind of mood where people can fight for what they want. And I think that George Orwell took this idea from the war that he assist and he joined in Spain. Okay, when he joined to Spanish citizens to fight against the Nazis, and there was a moment where the Nazis were winning the war and controlling Spanish people. So I think that he took that idea from that experience, okay? And if we care about the essays, the novels, the books of George Orwell, since he was a child, he was talking us about his experiences, okay? He was relating his experiences. So he was taking that settings and putting the settings into these other masterpieces, okay? Or works, as you want to say. Does it affect the characters' lives? Yes, of course. It affects everything, their actions, their freedom of choice. As I said, the setting affects everything because it's the place where the story is taking place. So I think that yes, it takes place. It affects. Sorry. And does it affect the feelings and the final insight? Yes, of course. Why? Because in the book, for example, at the end, the main characters can't be together, or they can't do their main objective, that is change the society mind, for example. So the setting affects their lives. And in real life, in George Orwell, for example, it affects. Why? Because the setting of the wars and the ages that he lived affects in the way he play or he redact and the experiences in this book. Okay, so and the next question and the final question is: does the setting represent an idea or how a character thinks or feels? Yes, I think that yes. Why? Because, for example, George Orwell, there was a moment in that he was renting an apartment in West London, and he tell us about how difficult and hard it was to poor society, comparing with high society. So I think that he took that ideas, that setting, and represent in his essays, especially in this book, 1984. So that's all.
Hello. So I'm going to make a general analysis of all the story of all the book that we have read in this turn. So we know that the book is 1984, wrote by Orwell. So this book is a warning of after years of burning off the twin menaces of Nazism and Stalinism. So for me, it's the expression of a state where trying to think differently of work with torture and where people are monitored every second of the day. So that's so frustrating. But in this case, it's where the party propaganda runs free speech, though is sobering reminder of the evils of unaccountable governments. Sorry. So in this case, it's something that we can appreciate every day in our lives. So not every country we can say, but it's something we can make the comparisons with every government, and many of them it's like Big Brother in this case is something apparently similar with this book. So it's so realistic and interesting. So Orwell in the book wrote about Winston, and Winston for him is the symbol of the values of civilized life. So in his defeat is a pregnant reminder of the vulnerability of such value in the midst of all powerful states. So you can imagine how a person can be the symbol of a nation or of the government that can remind something else to other people. But in this case, they are trying to manipulate all the people. They are trying to manipulate their memories, to manipulate their thoughts. So it's something that it's out of our hands because we cannot control that. It's out of us. So Winston in this case is something that could change or could may not change anything. So it depends on how they could act, or how we as people, we as village, as the sorry, we can say that we are like the government of our own village or of our own country, but remember that it's always is someone else controlling everything. So in this case, we are not like a symbol. We can be a symbol, but if we do the correct for them, not for us, if we are trying um to give the better, we can give the better, but following the same patterns that the government is telling us. So the big and really issue here is the Big Brother. That is a fictional character that it is not directly seen or directly show in the story, because it's like the government in this case, but is the dictator of the totalitarian empire of the Oceania in the novel. So through Big Brother does not appear directly in the story, his presence permits Oceania's Bleak subsidiary ambiguities, poster explain his photography feature, the slogan with Big Brother is watching you. So it's something terrifying that almost everyone can feel afraid or scared about someone who is watching you every day, every second, every minute, and it's uncomfortable for us and scary. So hidden devices in every room, they hid devices in every realm, enable his stock police to monitor the activities of all citizens. Oceania's constant species works in propagandistic language, so it's that new speak. And its anti-sex league are the most blatant manifesto of his control. His public personality is the mixture of benevolence, charisma, militarism, and insinuation, of the novel. So when I read about how the government hid cameras on every room, I remember when I read, and or I don't know, when I saw a video about the Judaism, the Anna Frank's diary, the Anna Frank's book, that the government spied people through televisions, through radio, cameras into rooms. And it was interesting because, as I said, we can apply this novel in every decade, in every government, and it is like every country approach to create a book or the novel, because it is like the exactly or the same story in every part of the world. So it's so interesting. This was a little bit we can talk a little bit more about the novel. We can talk a little bit more about every detail that the novel has, but it's interesting just to touch these topics because it's something that we can reflect for ourselves, and we can reflect and say, yes, we can make a change, but the government is not allow us, or I want to do this, but someone is watching me. So it's so complicated, but it's something that we need to adapt. If we don't want, or we think that we cannot change that, well, we need to apply that in our daily life, and we need to live with that. So I hope you can enjoy our analysis of the novel 1984. This was all for us, and thank you very much for your attention.